sorry for the boys there. Peter Jackson.
What am I saying?
Kate Blanchett, Orlando Bloom, Stephanie. Luke Evans, Lee Pace.
You guys are so much quieter than the panel was.
All right, we'll get started here.
Hello. My question is, with the title change, were there any other considerations to other titles before settling down on the 5 armies?
No, I mean not really, because that was the. I mean that was the title change came about when we did an assembly of the third movie last year as we were cutting the second movie to get it finished for this age and Schmau. We also had like an assistant editor just putting a version of the third movie together just so we could watch it, like just putting it together in a script order, just a rough thing that we could see. And I watched it last year, and seeing the movie, it just has to be the Battle of the 5 Armies is just the right title for it. And so when we were at the junket in Berlin, I pulled one of those people off to one side and I just said, listen, we don't have to discuss it now, but when you see that movie, which we'll show you, when we've got it properly cut in a few months' time, just be aware, be warned, I'm going to put up big pictures that we change the name to the Battle of the 5 Armies. I mean, just be aware that's coming down the line. And they saw the movie and agreed. I mean, basically, there was no debate about it. I mean, the There and Back Again title was really it worked when there was two movies, but about there's 3, so that's really just a climactic film for sure.
Thank you.
Only one, and I'm keeping it. It's going to be so valuable. No, there was no government to take that. I don't think so. No, I don't think any merchandising or anything got made. But that was the reason why we had to sort of make that decision now, because things were going to start to get made. It'd be nice to have one, just respected also.
Peter, can you talk about the progression of the tone from the first Hobbit to this one?
Well, the progression of the tone from the first Hobbit to this one is really what it's what you would expect it to be. It is what you would anticipate from seeing the first 2. Hopefully, most of you have seen the first 2. If you haven't, they're available on DVD. Download. It starts it starts at a certain point of innocence and naivety, I guess you'd say. Almost childishness, and then things just start to get darker and darker, and the stakes go, the screws get tighter, and that was the tone of the 3, and that really, by the time we're done with this film, which is I think going to be the most emotional, the most tense of the 3, I think it's going to be really, I think it's my favourite of the 3. To be honest, I'm not just going to chuck it down that. But it is actually, seriously, I think it's got a nice thriller kind of pace to it. It's that when you get to the end of it, I think it is going to feel like it's the right time to hand over to the fellowship. It'll just feel like we've gone that journey. Because I was always very much aware of them being a 6-film set. That was, there was always a sense of, that one day, long after all this is all over, all that's ever going to exist in the world is going to be these movies as a sort of 6-film series, and that's how kids are going to see them. Future generations are going to think of movies of beginning and end. So beginning with the unexpected journey, and the end was return to the king.
I really like your dress. It's very pretty.
Thank you.
God, I think that was God said.
This is for Benedict and Andy. How much practice goes into perfecting your voices for your characters, and do you ever find yourself speaking in them in real life?
Always. Yeah, quite a bit of practice. You know, I had to warm up a lot because I was forced to sit down so much, and I always had a lot of hot down honey and gingers at the ready. And even with the compiler, when we began it with motion capture and the first sessions in post-production, 80 hours this week, I was just doing it on its own without any modulation. So it really took a lot out of it, and it just meant there was a sort of lifespan to it, a very short shelf life to it. So a lot of warming up and a lot of warming down, and a bit of sort of silent rest in between. But
You should explain what the Congolizer is.
the Congolese, yes, what we need.
Two of you, you should both can actually.
One of the great things that, one of the tools that we sort of discovered along the way, really during King Kong, was a way of taking to the set, a way of creating the size of a character through putting the character through speakers and being able to drop and pitch shift and being able to drop the tone of a character. So it would be particularly useful for Smorg and it was for Smaug and
Thank you, Eddie.
and obviously for Kong to generate a sense of scale, to a sense of power, a sense of the lung capacity of something. If you're playing a dragon 150 foot long or a 25 foot gorilla, it's very hard to impress the power of the character if you're just using the power of your own voice. But just breath actually really important. Is an important part of making the character believable and an ongoing thing. So yeah, I mean that's part of it.
The Congolizer is this little box that we feed the voice into, that the guys can have headphones on, they can hear it. They can hear their voice in a very different way to what they're used to.
Yeah, and it means that you can modulate your performance in a more, dare I say, naturalistic way, in the sense that you're working to characterize it with things which are humanly readable. So you can just give more variation without spending a lot of focus on just getting that pitch or extraordinary change. Some of that work's done for you. And the same a little bit for me with the necromancer and sounding just. But also that was I decided to try and do max speed backwards and then loop back forwards, so and do it on an in-breath and make it very sort of harmonic.
As you do. Normal, just perfectly normal. Most people do that. I mean, I did that way.
It was a little bit, it's like this Lord's Prayer back. It was horrible. It was really unearthly, and I wanted that kind of horrible satanic quality. So that was another sort of technique we used. And then, like Andy says, lots of breath, just getting your lungs loose and free and not constricting your throat too much. I mean, every time I say that, I think what a lie that is, because my veins are sort of beyond my neck. Yeah, very painful, yeah. Really probably with my throat, but it all turned out all right. Yeah.
Well, to follow up on that, Benedict, if we saw you getting warmed up in the desolation of Smaug, we
Oh
see you
my goodness,
completely...
hang on. Hold the phone.
Never listen to Peter Jackson when it comes to the pronunciation of Elvish. Ever. It is not Schmaug. It's Smaug. Right? Right?
Probably, yeah.
Don't ask Peter. Yes, you are correct.
I have enough trouble with English.
Thank you for the Elvish lesson. So Benedict, you get completely unleashed in the Battle of the Five Armies.
I do. I swoop down to Lake Town.
That's what we're
It's all right, I'm not going to tell what happens. I swoop down to Lake Town and we have a picnic. And we get a little hot roast or two, and do party tricks for the kids, farms and slowly. Anyway, I'm not going to. Yeah, it's lots of spoilers are freely available on bookshelves around the world, but without verbalizing too much, of course, what happens. It was great to sort of have the next part of that journey fulfilled. I mean, it was a stunningly chilling sort of end to the last film, in the same on fire, and as he's swooping towards this town. Yeah, but yeah, I'm going to say more.
Is there any plan for either you or anyone else to tackle the Silmarillion?
How about you doing it?
Okay.
No, well, look, the Silmarillion is very simple, and I'll tell you very quickly. Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, Professor Tolkien, sold the film rights to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings in the late 60s. And the Silmarillion wasn't written then. It wasn't even written in his life. It was written in partly by him and his son, finished it after his death. And published it after the professor had died. And so the Silmarillion is the film rights to that have never been sold, and the estate don't have any interest in discussing film rights with anybody. So that's the situation. They aren't as obtainable, if you like, as Hobbit and Rings were.
My question is for Peter Jackson, although I could spend hours involved, guys. You guys are awesome. How are you going to top the battle you did from Return of the King? I mean, that thing was epic. Battle 5 Armies, was it hard to come about it?
Well, I mean, the battle in The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies, it's not, I'm not sort of going into it, and I'm sure that, in numbers, it's not going to be bigger than the Battle Field Battle, which was like 100,000 soldiers, I think, at one stage we had on that battlefield. So, there's not the intention is to make it bigger than Battle Fields, but it carries our story, our ongoing storyline. I mean, I don't really think of it as a battle. It's like as a battle as a contained, self-contained thing. It's like it is really just a storyline of all of our characters is continuing, developing all the way through, and they can get into combat. But the storyline is still evolving and even changes. Things happen in the middle of the battle that changes the storyline of characters, of certain characters. And there's a lot of them to be following, and so there's. It's a very much, I just look at it as being whether they're sitting around having dinner or they're fighting a battle, it's still part of the storytelling of the film. But it's going to be, the whole movie is going to be quite tense and I guess, it's like, as I say, it's like got a thriller kind of feel to it. So it's going to go into the battle with that degree of tension, a lot of tension just going into it. The good thing with battles is that you can maybe kill one or two people. God knows there's a few of them that need to be knocked off. So there's so hopefully we get we do have possibly characters dying in this film. Let's hope this isn't trying to keep secrets from a book that people in the world read. Because it's like that's where you can afford to have some emotion that we haven't seen in The Hobbit yet, but you certainly can crank it up in this film.
This is for Peter and Andy. Legendary does said Huawei that they are doing another King Kong. So with Del Toro. So are you looking forward to play King Kong again? And for Peter, what do you have to say about that? Are you helping Guillermo?
Don't know anything about it. I'm hearing it from you for the first time, but I would be looking forward if Guillermo did King Kong. It'd be great. It would be fantastic. So I'll be there on the first day, and I will help him with whatever help he needs. It's I always wondered if in my lifetime, and God knows how long it's going to be after I finish this last film, whether I'm ever going to see any the Lord of the Rings films remade or The Hobbit remade. You know how everyone's remaking films. I think, well, how long is this going to actually last and survive before someone's going to remake it? So it's interesting to see. So that Kong, obviously, we were the ones that remade Kong for Brussels the third time. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even realise that there was another version being made. But Guillermo's a great director, and as Pete says, I'm sure he'll make an extraordinary film.
About the creation of imaginary characters that she wrote in the books and how that process came about?
Well, the creation of Tariel, the creation of Evangeline's character, it came about in a very, it's almost like a scientific way, it's not very exciting, that in the book of The Hobbit, the storyline passes through the woodland realm. They escape in the barrels. Tolkien writes a little about the Woodland King. He doesn't even name Fandral, I don't think, his name, but and so there are no other Elvish characters, and that's the Hobbit. That's what our primary source material was, and because there's no story in it, there's no actual kind of story. It's just an event. It's just like an event that happens along the way. But as we developed our scripts, the treatments at the beginning, we wanted to create an Elvish storyline. And the best way to have any storyline is to have three characters. You can't really create a storyline with two, you've really got to ideally have three. And so Fandral, as he was subsequently named, the Woodland King, we also learned that he had a son, Legolas, and that's why Orlando's back in the movie, because that's an obvious choice of two of the characters is the king and his son. But we needed that third, and it was a very cold-blooded decision to cast a female character, because elves are there's a lot of strength in the women within the elvish race. I mean, it's just like we just wanted to have a really great cast chick, basically. Sorry. I just like to play. So anyway, that's how it came about. It really came about because we wanted to develop a storyline that emanated from the woodland realm and was able to sort of to carry on through the film right the way through to the end. And so that we knew that three characters was essential for us.
How is it playing someone who didn't have a reference in the books? Everyone had a reference to go off of.
I thought that aside from the fact that the fans were probably going to eat me for lunch, I had struck gold because nobody had a preconceived idea in their head of how I was supposed to look and behave, and so I had carte blanche. Really, nobody could tell me how Tauriel should be other than Peter Jackson, Fred Walsh, and Philippa Boyens. Whereas somebody like Martin, I just pitied that man. The minute I found out he was cast, I thought, what perfect casting, But how?
Well, you bought most of it, though, eventually, mostly. I mean, with Bilbo or any of those other characters, we form ideas from reading the book, and that really does send us on a particular course. But with Tauriel, it's like we were hoping you'd come up with something good. You did. You came up with something fantastic. So it was great. It was the chance to sort of see this a very different type of character that we used to see in these movies.
Yeah, I think that what we really wanted to create was a clear distinction between Tauriel, who was a low-caste elf, who was a woodland elf, and the high elves that you'd see in Lord of the Rings. And so I intentionally made sure I didn't rewatch Lord of the Rings, because if I had, because I'm so completely enthralled by Kate's performance in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I would have just tried to copy her. I wouldn't have known to stop myself. So I made sure not to watch it, and so that whatever we did create would be completely unique to a woodland female warrior elf.
Hi, this is for any or all of the actors on the cast members on the panel. What aspect of your character will you miss the most now that the trilogy is finished filming? And also, if you wanted to add, what's probably the best perk in terms of memorabilia that you get to keep, or as a cast member?
I'm going to miss my elf.
I'm going to miss Peter Jackson's earlobes.
I won't even ask, don't worry.
Anyone else in terms of what you'll miss most in terms of the aspect of your character, playing that character, any personality traits or anything you have to do physically?
I think I'm going to miss Lake Town. I fell in love with that place. It was a very magical place to just inhabit for such a long period. And it was my home, and it really felt like home. And me and my three kids loved every scene we shot on it. So that's probably my fondest memory. And I do miss it.
Oh, I'm just going to miss the chance to do it again, actually, because, what did you just mean?
No, I have no, I'm just, we were just going, oh.
No, because I'm such a small part of the film, the 4 weeks that I spent the first time round were sort of game-changing for me. I mean, you know, I can say it, I wouldn't say it in over 1,000 people listening, but I mean, I'm such a long-time fan of Peter's work, so to work with him, and then to work on the stories, and the stories have such a broad reach and such sort of an impact, not only as films, but also just creatively what the team achieved. And then to go back 10 years later, we sometimes get to do that in Russian theatre, but you rarely get to do it in the film. It was just, I mean, that I know that will never happen again, so that makes me slightly sad. And old.
Actually, on kind of a similar note, for those of you reprising roles from the Lord of the Rings films, can you talk about your experience sort of working backwards with those characters and what kind of challenges you maybe faced with going back in the timeline, but you have the same character?
One of the conversations that I had with Pete and with Fran and with Philip when we were talking about it was about how Legolas it made sense for Legolas to be in the Hobbit because of Armies and the world and the hospital network, but how would that, you know, what would the art be, what would the story be? And actually, it was very liberating because, kind of as Evangeline mentioned, you know, because Legolas doesn't feature in the story of the Hobbit in the books, in a way we were kind of able to create a character, go back and sort of create a backstory for Legolas, who then rocks up into that Fellowship of the Ring. And in a way it was, I mean, to their credit, to Pete and Fran and Philip's credit, they really thought that through. So I think you'll see at the end how these characters, the through line of all 6 movies, you know, is what you'll get from the characters, and it was really liberating.
Well, no, I think it also, I mean, I think because you've got the confidence and the fan base of the films, which some of which were originally fans of the book, obviously, but then there's people who are fans of what the team has done. And what I think is really great about what The Hobbit has achieved is there are many, many great works of literature, but you've got to make them into movies, and they have to exist in their own right. And I think there's so much invention in The Hobbit. So they've really embraced the fact that they are, first and foremost, the film story around those characters and around that world. And so I think that the creative riff that Fran and Philippa and Peter have had, and you know, everyone has been, for me as an audience member, incredibly exciting.
Outside of Stephen Colbert, who made a point of showing everyone up the story, Pete, Fran and Philippa really are sort of the authority on this world, so as J.R.R. Tolkien's. I mean, in many ways. I mean,
Philippa is the authority.
Well, Philippa.
My brain is off.
But in a way, you know, and to bring that vision, like, you know, to this.
I mean, the weird thing with I found, I mean, no, the question wasn't. I'm sorry. About the returning characters is just the iconography of the characters. That since we saw Legolas as Galadriel or Gandalf last, there's been, you know, toys made, action figures and dolls and lunchboxes and all that sort of stuff. And so suddenly they're walking onto the set. It's like something out of pop culture. Just, you know, coming on, which didn't happen with the other characters, new characters. You know, as the new characters came on, they were not accompanied by that, you know, by that stuff. But the returning characters, they're not just returning from a sort of a forgotten, you know, little movie 10 years ago. They're sort of bringing this pop culture with them, as it were, and that's sort of it is. But it was, you know, I still thought it was kind of a blink to look up and see Galadriel or Legolas or Gandalf on set. I mean, that to me was, I never thought I'd see that again in my life ever, you know, so.
I just want to say also, I know for Fran and I, one of the moments that we most wanted to write was Galadriel taking on Sauron, because she is the most powerful force in the earth. There's only one person who can do this. And so we were really, really excited to be able to do that, because she brings amazing feminine energy, which is original to J.R. Tolkien. Yeah, well, we don't know. But it was one of the bits of writing that we most look forward to. Thank you.
My question is primarily for Pete, but anybody should feel free to step in. Hello. Pete, 10 years later, you have a lot of tools that you didn't have technologically, and here you are making a big battle movie again. How do you not upstage yourself? How do you have the ability perhaps to go bigger and do things you couldn't do previously? How do you not make this bigger than Eleanor Favors? Or do you?
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, it really was ever the intention of saying, looking at film fields and statistics and all that, making it bigger. It was really just following our story. I mean, it was, the battle was part of the storyline of the arc of the characters. So just about everybody ends up in different ways participating in this major battle into the movie. So that was, you're always just thinking of the arcs and the characters. I mean, the technology is, I can talk a little bit, very briefly, I'll try and be fast about the technology part of it though, is that the one thing I can do now, which I'm having a lot of fun with at the moment, is whether we do performance capture or we do animation of a sequence in the battle, say you've got 500 of these guys up on climb up a wall and this and something smashes through. It's all, the sort of thing. If we do a 20-30 second piece of animation, performance capture, on that, I can then I can walk onto a stage about the size of this room here, and I can film it myself with a virtual camera, which I've absolutely loved doing. I did a little bit last year with the Dragon stuff at the end of the last film, and this year I'm filming all the battle stuff single-handedly, just like my Super 8 days, one person in a room. It's great. I do have a few where to back up people, I say. But it's sort of a very creative way of doing it, because I can stand, in the middle of the performance capture stage with a plastic box, which is not really a camera, but it's supposed to be a camera, and I'm holding it, and I've got a screen, and I can see what it's filming, and I can get different angles and different lenses and walk around and get different perspectives on this kind of battle. So it's a whole level of creativity that is still going on. I'll be doing it. I was doing it last week. I'll be doing it next week. So I get to actually be right in the midst of this huge battle, sort of filming it myself. It's like a combat cameraman. So I'm enjoying that. That's cool.
Maybe I could follow up with the cast. When you're there and you're filming, you know it's bigger than you can see and feel. Do you start to feel like, wow, this is a really big battle, or do you just focus on what the part is? Or anyone?
Kind of in a room. Yeah, I mean, three people in a box. No, I mean, that's not true. We did some big pieces.
Actually, Lee did about, I'm just thinking of everyone on stage, Luke and Lee did about the most of fighting directly of big numbers. You guys were fighting smaller numbers. We won't be talking much about that. But there was major. There was a bit of major combat, because one of the things I was always looking forward to was seeing Fandral too, Legolas's father. If Legolas does what he does, what does his father do when he goes apeshit in a bit of a battle? Well, we're going to find out.
Yeah, it was a good thing. Yeah, because there were days we had like hundreds of guys.
And you killed them all at the time it was all finished. No, you did. I mean, on screen, because he was just hacking, swaying his way through them. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
And Luke is really the defender of Dale, the city of Dale, which is up on the outskirts of Liverpool. Dale's under siege.
There was some very scary days of viewing about 60 or 70 orcs running straight at me. It's quite scary. Yeah, and they're real. They're all done up with the blood coming out their mouth and contact lenses in. Very scary, but fun.
All right.
Thank you all.
KL. KL. Yep, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I hear myself. Oh, there we are. Welcome to the press conference of the Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies. And we have the cast, we have the filmmakers here with us today. Peter Jackson, Nick Blanchett, Andy Serkis, Evangeline Lilly, Philippa Boyden, Luke Evans, Steve Pace, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Orlando Bloom. Anyone else who wants to. After close to 2 decades of working, of inhabiting Tolkien's world and bringing his work to life on the big screen in an extraordinary detail, how do you feel now that you're close to the end of that journey?
It's interesting. I mean, I think the most intensely emotional moments of farewell, if you like, or for me, are actually when we finish shooting with each of the actors.
Not all the time, but I just
don't remember the same day. I mean, our last